Welcome to the DTFC Side Project Advice channel, where we dive into students' side projects to give them specific advice on how to help them reach their goals. I'm Dan Rodriguez, founder of the Disrupting the Future Coalition, the DTFC. In this video, I get to talk to a student about her idea for a Bootstrap web development project. Welcome, Emily, to the DTFC Side Project Advice channel. I'm going to hand it over to you to tell us about the project that you've been working on.
Great. So my project is focusing on web development, but I want to utilize a specific tool, which is Bootstrap. And the problem statement is to create a functioning website in HTML/CSS. And the solution is that I want to focus on using the tool Bootstrap, as I mentioned, as this is like a popular framework, and I feel like it's a good strategy to I won't have to start from nothing, and it'll help me to build an understanding generally of how to do this before starting from nothing and limited experience with website development. Why did I decide to take on this project? Well, I wanted to strengthen my web development skills for my upcoming co-op term, and where I will be working in the web development department, so I can hopefully bring my skills and be somewhat of an asset to that team there. Market, I was still unsure when developing this slideshow, and determining the purpose of the website is something that I think I want to put more thought into, because I know that I want to develop the technical skills surrounding it, and then the other portion is the part that I'm still kind of working on. So the way that I created this development plan was I thought about what skills I wanted to strengthen and then researched the relevant tools in web development, and that's when I came across Bootstrap. And then the decision-making process was thinking about how I can learn most effectively. So as I mentioned, using a tool, a framework tool, is an effective way to learn and an effective use of my time on the side project, but also something that will be relevant to my co-op. Okay, the prototype status is right now just an idea. I haven't actually attempted making this specific project yet. The next step is to figure out what the purpose of this website will be. So what will I be trying to achieve with this website? And also I have to familiarize myself with Bootstrap, as this is the tool that I want to be using. And then the third would be to attempt a simple prototype. And beyond this, I can continue to build on that prototype, but that will be my first attempt to at this side project. And my questions slash unknowns to discuss are: how should I determine the purpose of the website, and is this an important thing for employers to see, that what will be the purpose of my side project, and what will I be trying to achieve with building this website? And then the second unknown is: how should I think about making this seemingly standard project more valuable to potential employers and differentiate just a standard website from other side projects?
Or how did you decide that you wanted to focus on using Bootstrap?
The reason that I wanted to use Bootstrap was because I wanted to use a framework to not have to start from nothing, and I felt that using a framework is a good tool to bring different pieces together to achieve your overall goal.
The next question for me would be in terms of the actual projects themselves. So have you looked around and tried to find what typical Bootstrap kind of projects would be? Because I think that kind of relates to your questions about how should I select this project, or how do I make this valuable, which are all great questions to be asking. I think so. Where I'd like to start is what have you seen that exists out there right now, or what other what kinds of projects are you thinking of right now?
Yeah. So I know that Bootstrap is obviously focusing on front end development. So a lot of it is about the way the website looks and what the user interacts with on the website. And the ones that I've been specifically researching are relating to data presentation, like data tables, data graphs, and visualization. And these are the ones that I've been looking into mostly.
And would you say that those are like also of your like of interest to you, or like how did you find those ones?
Yes, these ones are of interest to me because of my past experience with the DTFC. I was working in a position in data science, and a part of that position was also um, the ability to present the data to make like it actually useful in like a customer for a customer in that sense. And I think that's why this piqued my interest because it might also be it's like useful in data science, but also in web development and especially in like creating value to what you're doing in terms of like it's valuable to customers and businesses.
Right. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Because yeah, I mean, I think that as you're trying to answer like the question number one, like how should you determine the purpose of the website? For sure, like your interest is going to come up there for sure. And having like an actual application to something real, especially from a business perspective, like that's always a good thing to be considering as well, right? So I think when you're thinking of like what should your website be for, if you have a real like either business model or business plan or even just like the some solution or some problem that your website is solving, like that can be helpful to help guide you in that direction, right? And obviously, if you can tie that to something that you're interested in, I think that'll help you stay motivated and then actually be interested in creating value through the website, right? Because I think obviously your goal was to learn certain skills from a development perspective. But I think if the site itself actually has purpose, that's I think that's an important thing. So I think as you're asking, is this important? I think definitely it is. So as you were looking at different projects that were out there, were there any things that you noticed about them or any kind of similarities between different types of projects? Because I think that might help you to gain some perspective on where you want to tailor this to, right?
That's a really good point that I still need to look into.
Again, in I guess in the effort of trying to figure out like what's the purpose of your website. So like
Mhm.
a couple more questions that I would ask is, I mean, because you mentioned that you're interested in having this be useful for you or for you to be able to create value as you enter the workplace and
Mhm.
potentially working for other employers on similar things. What kind of jobs are you looking at, or like kinds of positions or roles or responsibilities are you looking into for future potential jobs that might be able to guide you into selecting a purpose?
Uh, so the jobs that I'm like interested in and are actively pursuing are jobs in web development, data science, project management, product design, and also hardware design. But I think the most relevant ones in terms of this project would definitely be web development. The aspect of data science, which is the data presentation, but not the actual data analysis part. I think project management, this could be really valuable because there's like back end and front end and like other aspects of website development. And so if I were to ever enter like a project management role, I would need to have like knowledge of all aspects, or I'm assuming I would need to have knowledge of all aspects of like the web development team and roles. I see that this side project could be relevant to those roles.
Okay. Because I think what my suggestion would be along those lines is if you could take a look at what some of those types of roles are and like start digging into a little bit more of the details of the either the specific qualifications or responsibilities of what those kinds of jobs are looking for that are obviously related to this web development exercise that you're going through. That might help you to give you some tips on where again how to focus the purpose of your website, right? Because if you know certain companies or certain types of roles that you're interested in are looking for certain expectations, then maybe you can fold that in from like a requirements perspective into your actual project so that you can make sure that if you have done those things, you're now it's two for one, right? You're
Mhm.
doing it to actually work on that project, but at the same time, you're also now getting the value that the employer is eventually looking for from you anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So Next question here. So does your website have any, I guess, more specific requirements in terms of like what it needs to be able to do, right? Or are there any like, I guess, areas that you think you would need to try and focus on or at least achieve for you to consider like this project a success?
From a general perspective, I would just want it to be like easy to navigate and understand, readable, obviously have required information. But then specifically like for this project to be a success, um, not only like easy to understand generally, but also easy to understand and communicate in terms of like data and in terms of like graph and data visualization. So like that would be something that I would want to consider this to be a success. And also adding like a visual, it has to make it like visually appealing and like go into like the UX UI sort of side of things.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. Like definitely like the UX kind of side of it as well, like the user experience piece of it. I think that's a good point and definitely something that you probably want to consider, especially when you're talking about data. It's easy to just collect data and put it out there in some kind of table or graph, but actually making it like readable or presentable, like you're talking about, I think that's a good thing to be considering for sure. And I think that would be definitely helpful for employers that are looking at what you're doing as well, right? Because I think if anybody can look at something and see that it's easy to read or easy to absorb, like that's a skill in itself, right?
Yeah. And like I think that definitely goes back to what we were having a conversation about before, about like there, or I think I mentioned having it like readable and easy to, and like able to communicate the data effectively is like what's gonna add value from like a customer perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think those are definitely good requirements. Were there any other requirements that were kind of on your list that you were thinking of, or is that something that you're maybe hoping to develop as you like pick an actual idea?
Yeah, I think this is something that I'll be developing this requirements list as I go and I develop my idea further, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So from I think to kind of tackle the second question that you have there about like what would be valuable to employers. So I think what is like usually a good exercise that I have people do is try and think of what what do you think the employer is looking for, right? So I mean, again, I think that kind of ties back to looking at specific roles and trying to look at the requirements or job requirements for positions that you're interested in because that might help to give you an idea of what those employers might be looking for. But I think you can also do that from looking at their products or their services or whatever it is that they are offering to try and see what do you think that employer would care about, right? Because I think that
Hmm.
should also tie into your requirements because for sure they'll be finding certain things more valuable than others, right? So if you can include more of that kind of stuff, I think that would be helpful for you to actually make that in or fit that into your requirements so that you're again heading towards this project with a specific goal in mind.
Yeah. So like tailoring my requirements to fit like what a certain employer is trying to achieve or what their company values in terms of what they offer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I definitely have some good starting points for how to develop this idea further and thinking about what employers would think is valuable and trying to incorporate that into my website design.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, thanks, Emily, for being on the show. And I mean, I think I'm curious to see what you can get up to with this project. And once you actually select an idea, I think maybe there'll be an opportunity for you to come back on and share what you've learned and give everyone an update on how this project went for you.
Okay, great. Looking forward to that and to getting started on this project. Thank you for your all your help.
Great. All right. Thanks, Emily. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the DTFC's Side Project Advice channel.